Well, let's take a little walk around the block. This is what the nuclear winter might just look like if things continue as they are. I just couldn't be bothered to stay at home any longer and just flick through the analysis and the opinions on the recent Donald Trump shenanigans in Venezuela. I mean, I guess everybody's sort of trying to work out what the hell's going on. And I thought, well, it's going to be another year, isn't it, of every day waking up to a new headline that you don't really understand, that you try and work out, that there are thousands of YouTubers who are trying to help you analyse it, and you will listen to them all, no matter if it's a quick comment, or it's a long analysis on the news agents that goes on for 60 minutes, and your entire existence in 2026 will be following Donald Trump and following Putin and following, Xi and following Kim Jong and all of these weirdos who are exerting their power in the world at the moment. And one of the big things that we're going to hear about, and you've probably already read about it, is this thing called spheres of influence. And I'm already sick to death. That's why I've come for a little walk, because I'm sick to death of this whole new geopolitical thing called spheres of influence. It's going to become, isn't it, the watchword, isn't it, for the year? So why don't we just cut it out like a weed immediately and stop worrying about it? Okay, we know what we mean by spheres of influence. It means that the US now has decided that Greenland and Canada and Mexico and Venezuela and Cuba and the Caribbean is within its sphere of influence, and rather like the old empires, it can do what the hell it wants. Okay, fine. And under international law, of course, you need a reason to act in your neighbouring countries, but the days of international law have long gone. It's no longer necessary. So forget about international law. Okay. China's sphere of influence, Southeast Asia and beyond, and the Pacific, and also, of course, Taiwan. And we know about Putin and his lust for Ukraine, and also for the old Russian Empire. So that's what we mean by spheres of influence. And there's going to be a lot of geopolitical talk about spheres of influence. And you're going to wake up every day for the whole year with the... it's not Donald Trump, actually. It's those around him. Trump is just kind of useful clown. But they want to clean the United States. They want to clean it of all of the... democratic progress. They want to clean it and turn it into some kind of Christian super race, and that's what they're up to. And that's their right. And with supreme power. Well, fair enough. Okay, I'm just going to enjoy my walks. I'm going to enjoy the weather. I'm not going to get involved too much in any of that. There are thousands of people out there doing political analysis who are much more interesting and much more informed than I ever will be, because I am emotionally disengaged from it to a great extent. Yes, of course, I still comment here and there, but I'm not going to waste. I've only got a few years left on planet Earth. I'm going to enjoy walking around. Even if it's cold. It's minus 17 here at the moment. So yes, it's pretty cold, but I am not going to sit at home looking at YouTube videos about spheres of influence and about what Donald Trump is up to. So I want to cut it out like a weed immediately. Cut it out like a weed. So think of regardless of what you read about spheres of influence, just think about spheres of influence, just like you would the violent, aggressive, drunk husband in the house. The whole household creeping around on eggshells, terrified to make even the smallest error, terrified of this unpredictable man. Well, the leaders of this so-called spheres of influence, be it Russia, be it China, be it the US, that's what they are, really. Of course, they don't drink alcohol because they are kind of pure. In fact, it was always the people who didn't drink the alcohol who were the most frightening, actually. I remember when I was growing up, there was this guy, we were all enjoying our pints in the pub, and there was this guy called Johnny, and he famously didn't drink, and he didn't drink because he wanted to stay fully alert, because he knew that by the end of the night, he would be kind of, getting involved in a fight, and he wanted to be in top form. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But imagine that household. Imagine the fear. Was this the majority of households? I mean, if you've read D.H. Lawrence's Sons and Lovers and others, and you know the history, or you've read Ibsen's A Doll's House, you'll know that. This was very common. The man who had the power in the house, who had dominion over the household, would be a terrifying figure. The meal was cold, the house wasn't tidy. All hell could let loose, especially as he started doing the drinking. Well, that's how we are all now, aren't we? We're frightened of what's this crazy guy going to do now? What's this unpredictable guy going to do now? Why has he got this fear of influence over the household? Why are the children frightened of him? Why do they walk around as though they're on eggshells? Why is everybody holding their breath? And what can we do about it? Well, in this case, there's very little we can actually do about that, except we can pack up and leave. But this is nothing more than the bully in the playground. This means that international law is no longer at the heart of international diplomacy, but it has been superseded by, I'm afraid, the laws of the playground, which is the man who has the biggest gun. And of course, they don't even really talk about democracy anymore, as if or that they are somehow morally superior than their neighbours, and this is why they must have some sort of power oversight over their neighbours in these new spheres of influence. They don't even try and justify it anymore. It's simply, I've got the biggest gun, you've got some oil, you're irritating me, you're making too much noise, you're a bad influence, whatever. And they can do what the hell they like. Yeah, nothing to do with democracy at all. So, I guess that the violent husband probably justifies his actions, doesn't it? I'm doing it for my family. I don't want her growing up like this. You need to, toe the line or whatever. It's all, there's nothing justifiable about what's happening at the moment. Except, as I said, it's the men with the biggest guns who are the playground bullies exerting their power. Now, this is why we've had the United Nations, and this is why we've had international institutions, and this is why we have the International Court, is because we are trying to elevate ourselves from this sort of bully in the playground savagery, which has been part of the history of humankind since almost the dawn of time. And we've tried to replace that with something that's a little bit more ordered. And of course, we're going backwards. And it's thanks just to a few guys who have decided that they have a kind of unlimited power and that they are able to violate international law whenever they feel like it. And of course, they have the support now amongst some people, because we are generally turning to the right, because we're unhappy, we're miserable, we're broke, and we're looking for answers, we're looking for scapegoats, and we're looking for leaders to worship. The strong man. Yeah. Well, this is a dangerous pattern, isn't it? The US, Russia, China, they've got the guns, haven't they? They've got the military, and they're trying to de-educate the population at the same time. So making them compliant. And they've got the economic power. They'll just push small countries around, and this is what you're going to see. But I just want to remind you of, and have a look at the Ozymandias poem, just to remind you that all of these things will pass. That no matter what happens this year, no matter how crazy it gets, I mean, I can see Putin and Xi and also Trump. They could get together in a room and they could decide to carve up the world into three. Imagine if they did that. What would you be able to do about it? Absolutely nothing. They'd carve the world up into three, and they'd be able to justify it if they wanted to. I mean, not that that would, of course, be meaningful, but they might come up with something. And how would you feel about that? It wouldn't surprise me if that happens this year. Obviously, it probably won't. But we're in the land of a world where it could happen. And so they get together in a room and they say, okay, well, we'll have South America and North America and Greenland, and you can have Europe and the Baltic countries and the rest of them, and all the stans, and China. Well, obviously Taiwan, but you take a little bit of Japan if you want. This is the kind of madness that is coming, and you will hear a lot more about spheres of influence. But just think of it as the behaviour of a violent drunk husband terrorising the household, imposing their will without regard for the well-being or the rights of others. Okay? I mean, hopefully there will be a renewed commitment to respecting sovereignty and human dignity and enforcing international law, but don't count on it. I wouldn't count on it. I'm not sure it's coming. I don't know whether I can follow this kind of news for this year, and whether or not that will affect the sort of things that I'm interested in or not interested in, or can talk about or can't talk about. But what do I say to that family? What do I say to that family who are trapped with that violent, aggressive, unpredictable drunk who's wandering around and smashing his plates because the meal was cold or somebody left the back door open? Well, there are two things you can do, aren't there? The first thing is that you can move out. Now, in this metaphor, which I'm stretching, or this analogy, that means emotional disengagement to some extent, because it doesn't really matter. Ozymandias, okay? It's all going to end up as broken bits in the sand, whether it's at the end of this year or in 10 years or in 20 years. It's ephemeral, it's meaningless, it's temporary, it's stupid. They'll all die off, nobody cares. But this is what we're living through at the moment. Do you want to just watch TV and follow the story, or there's no reason why you can't emotionally disengage from it? And you can do little things like I think I try and do, which is just to occasionally put my oar in. I'm obviously a tiny, tiny, tiny voice, but if everybody has a little tiny voice and they want to try and protect what's left of spirit of democracy and the spirit of progress, then you could always do something like that. But I understand why you might just disengage from it emotionally and just let this horror show go on and enjoy walking about. Look at this beautiful weather. Well, I say beautiful, it's actually bloody freezing out here, but it looks pretty. And I think I'll spend more time outside, actually, and I won't worry about geopolitics and whether or not Trump adheres to international law, because I think he's a madman. So what can you do? Yeah, you can move out of the house. Now, women couldn't do that in the past, and the children couldn't. They were dependents. But, that's why get independent, become independent. Make sure that you've got some autonomy in this ridiculous life and get out of that house. Get away from under his presence and the Putins and the Z's and the Trumps of this world and the J.D. Vances. Just emotionally disengaged from these guys. They're here today, gone tomorrow, politicians. And, hell to them. That's what I say. And what else would you be able to do if you were terrorised? Well, I tell you what you could do. You get a restraining order. You could get a restraining order. Unfortunately, we can't get a restraining order on any of these guys. They're just here because they've got the big guns, and we are a little bit trapped in the playground, aren't we? A little bit trapped in the playground of planet Earth. There's more dignity in the little blackbirds that I've been seeing on my walk today than there are in these people. There is more compassion even. There's more sense in the blackbirds. There's more authenticity, there's more beauty, and there's more joy in the little blackbirds on my walk today than there is in the hearts of these men. So I'm just going to enjoy my walkabout. Even though I'm starting to get a bit cold now, so I think I'll head off back towards the house. And I am not going to talk about these kind of subjects. I just refuse to be drawn on them. YouTube is absolutely full of people who enjoy these things. But, to me, it's a lot of hot air. It'll be over soon enough. Let them play their games. Emotionally disengage. Get a restraining order on them. Pack your bags. Get out of the house. Okay. I'm going home. It's really cold.